see what I have to deal with, everybody?
Did you not hit the? You didn't even hit the right intro.
I didn't call it the N-word off the air.
Did you hit the? You didn't even hit the right intro.
I mean,
it's on the other side, on the track side. The ad, the one that you wanted.
Oh, you mean this one?
Yeah.
Arguments and questions that are just completely off base.
Luckily,
And you missed the beginning of it. You are flaming right now, bro. You didn't read the rundown. You didn't give me a countdown.
You didn't start this from the beginning. So. Who starts this shit in 12 seconds? It's your fault. Luckily, we have something for you. Touchdowns and tangents. Of the people, for the people, by people, who care about the culture and all concise commentary. That was a bar.
With all that, man, welcome to Thursday nights from the Good News radio station. It's Touchdowns and Tangents, your spot for NFL takes and topical tangents. As always, I'm Pete D. Camarillo.
I'm Kenneth Frank James Berry. We are the purveyors of pettiness.
And we got a lot of shit to talk about. So before we get really into the weeds of the NFL news cycle.
You said weeds.
Can you go ahead and give me what this podcast is like real quick? Because I want to tell people what this podcast is like.
Like me saying what this podcast is like, or you want me to just hit a drop?
I want you to hit the drop.
Fantastic.
Come on, maestro.
Fantastic.
This podcast.
We might get sued for that. I don't know how.
Let me say this. What this podcast is not like. This podcast is not about being seen. This podcast is not about clout. This podcast is not about the journalists themselves out here trying to get exposure for themselves. We're not bigger than our interview subjects. We're not bigger than our takes, and we're not bigger than our tangents. And that's what this podcast is like.
This podcast is also like those two people having like the loudest people in the bar having a dope ass conversation, but nobody knows what they're talking about except those two people, and it's actually really hilarious. And you probably know because you've been one of those two people before, like the loud drunk person, and you just having a good time. That's what this podcast is kind of like.
But yeah, on that note, we got someone else in the room who's always here with us. Our third wheel, our
open a cold
intern,
one.
Our better third. It's because you got the IG password now. You're officially on.
Official, guys. It's official.
and put the mic right here. You're good.
Hey guys.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
But what's good, sir?
What's up? Just took a fat rip from a steezy pot, so I'm trying to recollect myself right now.
She said recollect. Not recollect, recollect.
No, recollect. Get everything together. Everything's out of place.
Yeah, I feel it.
Yeah, collect.
Gotta bring it.
She's getting centered. Namaste.
Getting her chi right.
And I gotta, drink my Modelo to get right. So
Modelo, fool.
Yep.
On that.
Hold on, wait. Three people doing a podcast. The Mexican dude drinking a 40. I'm drinking a Stella. And why are the black people drinking Mexican beer and the Mexican dude drinking?
This is a Mexican beer.
Definitely not Mexican.
That's not a Mexican beer.
I know Stella's not
That's
Mexican.
That's a Belgian
right?
beer.
Yeah,
I know.
No, you don't, Clout
Yes,
Chaser.
I do.
You don't even drink.
First off, I do.
You don't even drink.
Not as much.
All right. Drop, let's talk about it because I actually put it on there so you have no excuse.
Okay. I'm mad that it says, let's talk about it.
Yeah, man, we got a lot of stuff to talk about.
I'm feeling kind of pressed.
First of all, Carson Wentz, breaking news right before this podcast pretty much went on. The Philadelphia Eagles quarterback, the 2015 number 1 overall pick?
Went ahead of Jared Goff.
No, he was number 2. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Jared Goff went number 1.
There you go.
Wentz signed a
purposely said that wrong to make sure you got the right answer.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
Sacrifice.
Wentz signed a 4-year, $128 million extension. Whew. That's a whole lot of Skrilla. Cheese.
Don't ever say
moolah.
You just finding ways to piss me off.
I mean, isn't that what this podcast is like?
Basically.
He's-
This
he's-
podcast is you guys for like an hour and a half or 2 hours trying to figure out who's going to piss who off more. I feel like
Figuring out who's gonna
who's more right, who's right, and who's going to piss the other person off.
who's gonna
football's just a medium.
who's gonna push one closer to fight
Yeah.
without actually fighting.
Yeah.
We're always finding those boundaries. But yeah, man,
I think I'm winning.
Carson Wentz for the Eagles, $128 million.
How much guaranteed?
I don't have it off the top. I don't even know if that was reported yet. But I think the bigger issue is,
You reported it?
I guess I more aggregated it, but okay. The crazy part is, you Ramley out there, Jared Goff.
I heard niggas outside.
That
what
means
scared
he's-
me. That's why I stopped talking. I was like, who is that outside?
Jared Goff.
That worried me.
That means his extension is going to go up. I believe
Pause.
he has two more. I believe he has one more year and then a 5th-year option. So, but they've already been in discussions about a deal. And then on top of that, you got Dak Prescott, who was a later round pick, so he doesn't have that 5th year. He's going to need a new deal as well,
Dallas has to pay him though.
especially because they're in the same division. So pretty much,
Who are you gonna pay?
the Eagles got ahead of this whole situation, and we're like, let's not even play around with this. Let's give Wentz his deal. But my question to you is, that's a whole lot of money for a dude who's basically missed the better half of the last 2 seasons with injuries.
But he got you almost the top seed.
But he didn't finish it. Who did? Nick
But-
Foles.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of a T.O. situation in a sense. Like T.O. is the reason why they were 14-2 up until he broke it. He had his leg snapped, and yeah, he didn't. The only difference is T.O. came back to almost single-handedly win him the Super Bowl. Carson Wentz, way too early to tell. And he had some rust with the injury, and this year he said he's not going to wear the knee brace.
But between Wentz, between Graham, who they just re-signed, I think they have their left tackle Lane Johnson under a few years
He's a right
left.
tackle. 'Cause he
Right
got Jason
tackle.
Peters.
They have Alshon Jeffrey, who has like 2 more years yet. So basically, the core nucleus of their team, the Super Bowl team from 2 years ago,
He's intact.
is still intact and is going to be intact. What do you make of that? Are the Eagles the favorite to win the NFC East?
No. I mean, this is kind of going to bite into my take a tangent later in the show. But you got AP coming back. They get Haskins. They got a young, good receiving core. They got tight ends.
Wait, the Redskins are your favorite in the NFC East right now?
Let me finish. They had like 26 guys on IR last year, and we're like 2 games away from winning the division.
Is AP even going to start over Gusay? I mean, we'll get to that
Rice
later when we talk
and
about best
AP
running backs.
said he was planning on rushing for 2,000 yards this year.
Yeah, we'll get to that later.
That dude's a freaking nature. And if they figure out the whole Trent Williams situation, which we'll get to later, they figure that out, they get Morgan Moses back healthy, they solidify that offensive line.
And the Cowboys did some good things on defense to
Yeah.
address their biggest weakness. And then you got another year of Cooper,
I think
Dak,
Haskins
hopefully.
is special. Haskins is a special.
That's what they've been saying out of camp. He's been throwing the rock around.
It's just the terminology, which is what a lot of quarterbacks have trouble with, is the terminology. He's a rookie. Like you're supposed to come in and know everything. That's not how being a rookie necessarily works.
All I know is there's a lot of quarterbacks who can sling the ball around. Jameis Winston, and a lot of quarterbacks who don't win. Jameis Winston.
Dwayne Haskins is not Jameis Winston.
I'm just saying.
Stop being disrespectful. I'm gonna call Jordan Ball, and you're gonna have to deal with the Ohio State slander.
All right. Next up, man. This is a long coming development. You know, we've been talking about the whole Kaepernick situation, the Malcolm Jenkins beef, really since the inception of this podcast. And now it's pretty much come out that the NFL, as part of their deal with the Players Coalition led by, Malcolm Jenkins, they're divvying up $2 million, I believe $200,000 grants to 8 different social justice organizations, which is part of the $20 million commitment that they made from the agreement with the coalition. So what do you make of that, KB? But
what? Sorry, did I fake fall asleep again?
Basically the grant money's coming from the NFL Foundation, and it's going to go to players' organizations.
It's like when financial
and their charity and needs.
Yeah, it's like when financial aid finally gives you your money, but like a week and a half into the semester.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask. How long has it been since Kaepernick has?
I mean, it's only been like
since
they cut the deal. It's been like 6 months. No, like
it's been
9 months. It's been like 9 months.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's been like 9 months.
And like now they're like picking and choosing like people's personal. And you already told you how I feel about nonprofit organizations.
That's any sort of grant situation, though. Yeah. You can't give money to everyone.
Yeah, I know you can't, but a lot of
people... You
have
to know where it's going. You have to know what it's going towards. You have to know if it's going to be sustainable. It can't just be like a one-off. Okay, we gave you all this money. It has to be like, okay, you're creating a organization and a change that's going to be able to sustain itself.
Or you already have an organization and an infrastructure built.
Exactly. And those are the ones that are going to get more.
And some people will end up getting a slush fund because, let's be honest, not everybody's on the up and up. So you got to factor in, okay, who's getting money? How much, like, people might ask, well, how much money is Malcolm Jenkins getting personally for his organizations? And other people who were in lockstep with him who probably didn't side with Kaepernick. You have to ask that question too. So it's like, who's getting this money? Is it going to their overhead for things they're already doing? Or are you just giving out money to create a whole infrastructure, to create a whole other lobby or panel as to people to decide on what's already been decided?
I don't get what you're saying.
Okay. It's like, I'll give you an example. When I think it was...
Don't give me an example, because usually your examples just get more confusing because they're like off base.
They're not, but I was going to give you a political example that's happening in real time, but I won't do that, so fine. Let's say I give you money to...
Just say what you mean.
I'm telling you.
All right, go.
I give you money to solve a problem, and instead of you solving the problem with that money, you create a panel or some things to put together a think tank to help you solve the problem instead of solving the problem. You understand what I'm saying? You're diluting the funds by going towards something that may or may not solve the problem instead of just solving the problem.
Okay, but you're
money.
The first person to talk about how the disadvantages of black people over generations isn't something that can just be solved with money, let alone in a short period of time. So, like, this $20 million is not going to solve the problem. Like, let's just set that straight, first of all. And second of all, and even just having, like what you're saying, you always talk about doing that. You always talk about getting a coalition and having a panel and having discussions about fixing the problem. And now you're slandering that. So now I'm confused.
First off, I'm not slandering that process. I'm slandering it when people already know what the problems are and they still want to get together a coalition and waste all this time and waste all this money and resources when you can just fund something that already exists.
And that's why they're giving it to charities that already exist, that already have mission statements, that are already...
Yeah, that was my only premise. It's like,
input and output.
Is some of this money going to somebody who wants to start something, or is something already concrete? Like, are you giving money to the Innocence Project? Because that's what I would advocate for. Give the Innocence Project a couple $1 million.
It's going to the Players Foundations. So I'm sure the Players Foundation can probably
What's the Players Foundation
write a check to the Innocent Foundation.
I'm glad you said that. No, if I want to give serve money for her cause, why would I give you money to give her money?